When we come with that heat, we got skip on the.
Welcome back in. Public Fades NFL Week 3 Best Bets here on $1 Million Radio. This is what we do. We fade the public. It's in the name. We're going to take a look at the Week 3 slate for Sunday NFL football, and we're going to fade the public. What does that mean? I've got some guidelines here, and I bumped up the percentages after last week. We broke even last week, okay? We'll get to that in a second, but we broke even thanks to the Panthers there late. But I'm bumping it up from 75% to 80% this week. We're going to try that out. Let's see if 80% or more of the money on one team is something we should be fading more than in the 70 range. But the guidelines are, like I said, if there's 80% of the money on one team this weekend, we're going to fade the other way. We're fading the public. Home underdogs are a plus. Going to try to do one game per time slot. That's what I recommend to the viewers. You can take every pick like I do. I place every pick that I give you guys because I'm not a fraud. I feel like I'd be fraudulent if I did anything less. Week 1, we started out 4-0. Started out hot. And that's what gave me the idea to make these episodes. Okay. Last week, instead of 4 games, I went with 6. Didn't do too great. Went 3 of 3, but thanks to the cover at the end, the backdoor cover by the Panthers, we were able to break even on the record. 3-3, bringing our total to 7-3 here through 2 weeks of the NFL season. So let's just do a little recap last week. Starting off with the Browns plus 11.5 against the Ravens at home. Browns at home in Cleveland. I gave you the Browns pick plus 11.5 with a small disclaimer. I said Lamar could Lamar, and that's exactly what happened. Lamar Lamar'd. 41-17 win for the Ravens. Browns did not cover. I felt like that was way too many points. Turns out wasn't enough points. But the Browns didn't get embarrassed like the next pick I had. I really wish that I could just wash this one. Take it off the slate. Go back. Don't do this play. I had the Bears plus 6.5. In Detroit. Ben Johnson, first time in Detroit. Lions won 52-21. Honestly, that should count for 2 losses in my book. I'm sorry. But, yeah, I don't really have much to say on that play. Bears plus 6.5 lost 52-21. Mark that one as a L. And then the Saints, this wasn't my favorite play, but they almost pulled through. Saints plus 3 at home against San Francisco, lost by 5, 26-21. Spencer Rattlers had 2 weeks in a row where late in the game, the Saints had an opportunity to either cover or possibly tie the game, take the lead, and it just hasn't worked for them just yet. That's not going to stop us this week, by the way. I'm just letting you know right now. But in the win column, the play of the week for me was the Giants plus 4.5 in Dallas. 91% of the money was on Dallas. It was a division game. Giants typically keep it close, even though Dak's record against the Giants is, as far as win-loss ratio, it's very good. I think it's now 13-2. So Dak does his thing against New York, but Russell Wilson did his thing. And having the game won for the Giants late, before the Giants defense just came out, let Dak do whatever he wanted, to get Brandon Aubrey in field goal range, which is like 70 yards, I think. That's his field goal range, radius, whatever. Yeah, so he's automatic, 64-yard field goal to tie the game. Russ threw a pick in overtime, very costly. It cost them the game. And Dallas went down the field, kicked a field goal to keep the cover for the Giants, as Giants fell 40-37 in overtime. But Giants plus 4.5 did hit. There we go. We fade the public. Seahawks +3 was a win. They won 31-17 outright at Pittsburgh last week. I called it to a T. I felt like Pittsburgh was in a letdown spot, and they were. They didn't cover -3 in week 1 in New York. They didn't cover -3 in week 2 at home against the Seahawks. Actually lost that game 31-17. And as I mentioned, the Carolina Panthers just pulled through big time. They were down 27-3. That's a 24-point deficit in the second half to Arizona. They come back, they don't win, but what an effort it was by Bryce Young and the Panthers. 27-22 loss, covering +6.5. So that's where we stand. 7-3 on the year, 3-3 last week. Let's get serious. We're going to start like we did last week in Cleveland. Now, disclaimer on this pick. I'm not taking this pick. This is not going to count for my record. This is not going to count against my record. But it's simply because I don't bet on my teams. Green Bay is my team. 81% of the money, 83% of the bets are on the Packers -7.5. So I'm going to give you the reasons why I think Cleveland will cover this. I am not taking it. I'm not counting it against my record. But maybe you want to take it. So this is why we do this. The line opened up at -8.5, sat there for a couple of days, and then I think it was Tuesday, it moved down to 7.5 for Green Bay. 81% of the money, 83% of the bets on the Packers. Like I said, I don't bet on my teams, but I did wake up this morning on this Thursday. Beautiful day here in Knoxville, Tennessee. I woke up from a dream I was having. That dream was Green Bay struggling in Cleveland this week. That dream was 17-14 score, Green Bay not really being able to extend their lead, Cleveland staying close. And then I woke up. I don't know how that game ended, but that's what the dream was. And that is real. Dreams aren't real, but it was a real dream that I had. Green Bay always seems to not cover and sometimes lose when they're in a spot like this. They win a couple games early in the season. Green Bay looks like a dominant force, and hey, I think they are. I hope they are. But whenever they get favored in a spot like this on the road, I think back to 2022, I think it was, Aaron Rodgers last year with Green Bay, is when I was really getting into sports betting, and Green Bay was favored -4.5 at Washington. This was before Jayden Daniels. I think Taylor Heineke was their quarterback, who grew up as a Packers fan and always plays the Packers tough. But Taylor Heineke won the game against Aaron Rodgers. Green Bay was -4.5, and I put them in, I think, 2 or 3 money line parlays that week, and that's what made me realize that I don't need to bet on my teams anymore. It's just, not only was I mad that we lost, but when you're mad, you lose money. It's not a good combo. But Green Bay lost that game. I just feel like 7.5 is a give me for the casual when you're looking at this game. A casual who might not look at where all the money is. A casual who might not be in on the trends. So I'm not taking it, like I said. Browns +7.5. I got to mention it because it fits the model. Okay. But now, let's get down to brass tacks, as Saul Goodman would say. Falcons at the Panthers. Divisional game. Falcons -5.5 on the road at 1 o'clock. 81% of the money, 79% of the bets on Atlanta. Panthers, like I said, had a late great backdoor cover last week against the Cardinals. An all-time great backdoor cover. Down 27-3 in the second half. Stormed back, covered +6.5, lost 27-22. I'm thinking maybe that late comeback sparked something in this team who has a lot to prove. Bryce Young has a lot to prove. I like Bryce Young. I think he's an NFL caliber quarterback. He hasn't really shown that much in his 2 or 3 years as a starter. Got benched last year. But I like Carolina in this spot. These are two teams, divisional rivals. They play each other twice a year. They split the series the last 5 seasons in a row. What does that tell us for game 1? Not much. What does that tell us overall, though? I feel like this series is something that is a lot closer than what people may be thinking, what they're paying attention to. I'm thinking that late surge for the Panthers showed us something. I think that with Michael Penix and the Falcons, they won 22-6 last week against the Vikings on Sunday Night Football. They covered, obviously, but they didn't really show us much. I didn't really think that they looked that great. They scored, 1 touchdown? I think it was 15-6. Just a field goal game before a late touchdown late in the fourth quarter for Atlanta. Give me Panthers plus 5.5. Just give it to me. Feed me that at 1 o'clock. Panthers plus 5.5. That's my only play in that early 1 o'clock slate on Sunday. Moving on to 4 o'clock. I don't even know how to explain this play to you guys. Saints at the Seahawks. Seahawks minus 7.5 at home. 91% of the money, 78% of the bets are on Seattle to win by more than a touchdown, at least 8 points. These are both teams that we rode with last week. Seahawks came through. Saints did not come through. What's going to happen this week? That should mean that we should be going with Seattle. All of the public is going with Seattle this week. Almost. 91% of the public has their money on Seattle. New Orleans is 0-2 against the spread. They haven't covered yet. Like I said, they've been real close. I think they get it done this week. I think this is a spot, like I said last week, the Steelers were in a letdown spot. I think Seattle, like I said last week, I think they're a really good team. I think they're going to win a lot of games this year. They're probably going to make the playoffs, okay? But they're also going to be putting themselves in spots where they could let down their fans. This is a week where we buy low and we sell high. I said the Steelers were the letdown last week. I think it's Seattle this week. And I know I put that video out on TikTok last week. We gained a few Seattle fan followers. So hopefully they don't hate me for this. I'm going with the Saints plus 7.5 as we fade the public. 91% of the money. That's a key number from last week and into this week. 91% of the money on Seattle minus 7.5. I just think maybe they win, but I think Spencer Rattler, the rattlesnake, I think he's keeping it close. Give me the Saints plus 7.5 as we move on to another team who, like last week, had 91% of the money on them, as they do this week. Dallas Cowboys at the Chicago Bears. Dallas plus 1.5. They're the underdog against the Bears team who had 52 points hung on them last week. This is a Cowboys team who won in overtime, scoring 40 points last week. This might be an under to look at as we fade the public. I don't know the percentages on that. I would say most of the money when you're looking at the over-under is probably on the over in this game. Dallas had the same percentage last week against New York, almost lost outright if they didn't have Brandon Aubrey as a kicker, and the Giants defense just didn't let him walk down the field all game. The Bears let us down big time last week, and I hate the Bears. I don't like Caleb Williams, and I don't like my pick. But whenever 91% of the money is on one team, I'm not going with that team. Give me Chicago money line, okay? Now, maybe they win by 1 point and technically don't cover, but in a pick'em game like this, Chicago minus 1.5, I'm just going to take their money line. I'm not risking them losing or winning by 1, not winning by 2. I'm not laying the points. Just give me their money line. And this line stinks. The line stinks. I feel like the Cowboys should be favored -2.5, -3.5 in this game. I feel like if this was in Dallas, the Cowboys would be favored by 4 or 5 points. So why is the line -1.5 in favor of the Bears at home against the Dallas Cowboys? That just tells us the sports books know something that we don't. Okay? The Bears, like I said, I say this a lot about teams, they've got a lot to prove. They've got so much to prove with Ben Johnson as their new head coach, Caleb Williams as their starting quarterback of the future, who's now in year 2, 3. I don't even remember. I'm sure Bears fans know the exact day count that they drafted, or since they've drafted Caleb Williams to change their franchise. I think he gets a big win this week. I think he does. As long as Chicago can, they don't have Micah Parsons to worry about. At least this week, they're gonna have to play him twice a year with Green Bay. But this week with Dallas, they don't have anything to worry about as far as Micah Parsons goes. If they can hold off on that pass rush, give Caleb Williams some time, I feel like Chicago's got a good shot in this one. We're fading the public. 91% of the money is on the Cowboys. We're going Chicago. Give me the Bears money line. As we move on to Sunday Night Football, my favorite pick of the week. Saving the best for last. I love it. Kansas City Chiefs at the New York Giants. Kansas City on the road -5.5. 86% of the money, 74% of the bets are on the Chiefs to win by 6 or more points. Chiefs are 0-2 on the year, but they played 2 really good teams. They played in Brazil week 1 against the Chargers. They were -3 favorites, lost outright 27-21. Last week they played, they were +1.5 at home against the Eagles. They lost that one 20-17. So they're 0-2 on the year, also 0-2 on the spread. So a team that hasn't covered yet this year, and we're only in week 3, it's still early. A team that hasn't covered yet this year is favored on the road -5.5 points. Give me the Giants +5.5. I've been talking up the Giants for 2 weeks now, not necessarily them as a team, but I love their spot last week against the Cowboys. Russell Wilson is on a team that has a lot to prove. He has a lot to prove himself. This is the first time Patrick Mahomes has played at the Giants. He did play at MetLife Stadium once in October 2023 against the Jets. They won that one 23-20. That was the year Aaron Rodgers had the Achilles injury. Zach Wilson got bumped up as their starter. The Chiefs were 8-point favorites in that game, and they won 23-20. So they didn't cover. 86% of the money, 74% of the bets, like I said, are on Kansas City. Russell Wilson coming off a game, he went 30 of 41, 450 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then 1 costly pick in overtime. But give me the Giants +5.5. I don't really believe in the Chiefs anymore. Maybe I eat my words, but Patrick Mahomes was keeping them in the game as best he could last week against the Eagles. He threw it to Travis Kelce in the end zone. Travis Kelce basically just hit the ball up, and the Eagles intercepted it. And the game was over after that. The game was over. But the Giants are not the Eagles. I will say that. They are at home. This is just another letdown spot for the Chiefs. I'm not saying that they start 0-3. I am saying they start 0-3 against the spread. Give me the New York Giants +5.5. As we wrap up, public fades here on $1 Million Radio. Week 3 NFL best bets. So please always gamble responsibly. Always don't ever bet any money that you are not able to lose. That is my key. My unit size is small. I stick to my units for the most part. Anytime I don't stick to my units, it's an automatic loss for me for whatever reason. But nothing is 100% accurate, especially in sports, especially on the gambling side of things, just in life as a whole. But one thing we always know when it comes to sports books, whenever it comes to gambling in general, the house always wins. And that's why we fade the public. We'll see you next time.